Good morning, everyone. You are here for the NERIC Model School Special September 2020 series on Google Classroom Beginner. For those that you haven't met me before, my name is Bond, Virginia Bond like James, and Virginia like the state. And I am going to walk you through how to set up a Google Classroom. So for right now, I'm going to use what's on my screen, but then I am actually going to change over to just being in Google Classroom, and walking you through the parts of this Google Classroom slide deck. I will be sharing the slide deck with you, so there won't be any problems with that. First thing I want to do with you is to go through the data privacy disclaimer. So number one, please make sure you're following your district's data privacy disclaimer and security guidelines as they are set by your district. Since every district is a little different that we work with, it's really important that you know what is allowable. Now, in this session, I do not think I will be sharing anything that is not a core Google product, and all the core Google products are covered under our agreement with Google. Your district has a letter of agreement with them that states that they will not be sharing student data and that they will be protecting student data. And that's what this data privacy disclaimer is about. Just please know that if I go to any site that is not on that does not imply an endorsement by NERIC. So the first things that I want to do is kind of walk you through my targets, the learning targets for today. And then I am going to get rid of this presentation. I'm just going to go straight into Google, and then I will bring the presentation up again at the end. So what are we going to do? We are going to create a new Google Classroom. We are going to understand the layout of that classroom, including each of the 4 tabs, which are the stream, the classwork, the people, and the grading. We're going to be able to add pieces to Classroom under the stream and the classwork and the people. We're going to understand how to change our settings so that it looks a little neater for our students and it's easier to use. And then we're going to understand how to invite guardians within our document. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to create a classroom. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close a few tabs, and I am going to follow my presentation on my other screen that you cannot see, but this session will be here. You'll be able to see it. So the first thing that I am going to do is I'm going to create a new Google Classroom for you. So there's 2 ways to do this. When I open up a new tab, I will get a waffle on my Google. And so I can either go to Classroom, the Classroom icon that I have populated there. Now that icon is almost always there, but sometimes if it is your first time to open up Classroom, it does not exist. So what I need to do is I'll need to open a new tab, and I'll need to go to classroom.google.com. And what that does is that brings me right into my, what we call the Google Classroom home. This is like the home base. Each of your apps within Google has a home base, and this is it for Classroom. You can see that I have other classrooms that are already set up in here. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to create a new Google Classroom. And the way to do that is I click the plus sign. Now, if it is your first time ever creating a Google Classroom and you do not have the create class option, you are going to need to contact your Google domain admin because you have to be verified as a teacher. Call it the big V, okay? You have to be verified as a teacher within your district, and that must occur on the Google admin side. You cannot do that. So I am verified as a teacher, so I can create a class. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on the create a class button. And then it says, do you understand? Now, I am using this in a personal account, not at school. So you are not going to get this pop up. But the only way for me to be able to run this the correct way was for me to do it through a private account. So I do understand that I'm not using this at school. You're not going to get this because you're going to build within a domain. I'm building within my personal account. So the first thing I'm going to be asked is, what are you going to call it? Let me give you a couple tips here. I should always put my last name on it. And the reason for that is because if I was teaching a math class and I had a math 7 class and I had 8 sections of it and they just said math 8, there might be a lot of math 8 sections in my class, or in my school district, or even just in my building. This is easier for your students, number one, to find, and number two, it's easier for co-teachers or special ed providers who may be added in as a co-teacher within your classroom. So naming conventions are always so important within Google because the neater we make them, the easier it is for us to find things. So I'm going to call this bond technology, and I'm going to call it remote teaching, just so I have it kind of all together there. I'm going to make it a section. I'm going to make it section 1. Subject is technology. You don't have to do all of these pieces. That's fine. I'll do technology department, and I don't have a room. What's really important is this piece up here. If you want to be really, really nice and neat about it, you can put period 1. So I'm going to put my name, the name of the name of the course, and the period that I have it. Now, the period is really for middle school, high school teachers, but that's going to clarify things, keep it very neat. I'm going to push create. This takes a little bit of time for Google to think through the process to add it in so it's ready to go. But there we go. Boom! I now have a Google Classroom and we are ready to roll. So the first thing I really want to walk you through is the layout. So let's look through the layout of what this is. So when I start in the top corner, you will see right up in here where it says Bond Remote Teaching. This is the title. And you notice if I click on it, it's going to bring it's going to bring me right back to here. If I come over into this hamburger, these are the other classes that I am teaching. So this is this course. It's going to bring me to the title of my course. When I come across, here are my tabs, the stream tab, the classwork tab, the people tab, the grades tab. Perfect. The settings are, again, all the way over. That gear is always settings. It's always going to be the same icon in all of the Google tools. Then I have the waffle so that I can get to other apps. That's not going to be as applicable today, and I'll show you why in a little bit. It will be, but we're not really going to go out of Google Classroom to do things. Here is my avatar. This is my account, so it tells me the account that I am in. I have here this big old box right here. This is my header box, and I have certain amount of information here. I have the class code, which we will visit in a little bit. I also can select my theme and upload a photo. We'll do that in a few minutes. I have over here the upcoming box. This is your best friend within Google. So as a Google teacher, when I click on this and it takes me in, it's going to show me the work that I have to review as a teacher. We're going to come back and revisit that as we put some work in, so it'll make more sense. Then I have the ability in here down at the bottom to write something. So this box is where I would put information that I could share and I would be able to push out that you would be able to see. I hope that makes sense. So those are the pieces of the layout. So now let's kind of work our way through our pieces. So let's start in our header. So the header is up here, this piece right in here, and I have the ability to really customize this if I want. So the way to do that, I would come over to select a theme. This should look very similar to some of you have used Google Forms in the past because this is the same place that this sits. So I'm going to select a theme. They have it up here, but when you kind of go in, you're like, oh, these look pretty familiar. These are the ones that they have available that I can use. So now these are pretty small. There's not a lot of options, right? Google Forms has a lot more options and has more realistic pictures. Can I pick one of these? I sure can. Sorry about that. I got kicked off, so we're going to try to edit those two pieces together. So I am in here on the second part. I'm putting in an image, so you'll notice that I already have this one chosen, so I'm going to choose this one instead. And when I click on that right there, and I click the blue select class theme, it will change the theme. It changes the color, kind of changes the color background. So if I get in here and I'm like, I don't really like all these choices, I want something different, I can upload my own photo. Now, I'm not sure, I'm borrowing somebody's laptop, so let's see if there's any photos in here. Sometimes there's like a picture in here that I could grab one, and I don't think there are any. Let me see, is there anything on the camera roll? Nope. So I would have the ability to upload my own photos in there. And you can see when you look at the deck that you'll follow on, you'll see that I have a picture in there that I've created that is like me on I am on a old style phone, right? The old kind. So actually a pay phone. So there is a header that I was able to upload myself. I made a custom header that I was able to use. It's pretty simple to do. So that's the next thing. Okay, so let's go. So the layout's pretty easy. I can change that layout. I cannot really get, so you'll notice if you use a theme that is your own, so if you use your own photo, it does come in kind of gray. There's not anything we can really do about that. That is just the way it works. I wish I could give you a better option than that, but I just can't. So now we're going to work through those 4 tabs of Classroom. So Stream. So Stream is the first one. So what I really like to say to people about these tabs is that the cleaner you can keep your Google Classroom, the better it's going to be. So if you ever had walked into my classroom, you know that my classroom had a place for everything and everything in its place. And I was a little crazy about it because I wanted it to stay as neat as possible. Had a lot of students kind of come through. Don't think about your digital classroom as any different. If you put everything in the correct place and you are consistent with that, it is number one going to make it very easier for it's going to make it much easier for your students. It's going to keep it much easier for you. Because for many of you, you're going to be doing these things almost twice. It's going to feel like that. You're going to be keeping a physical copy and a digital copy. And if we can align them as much as possible, it's going to make sense. So the stream is the place that is usually sends most people for a tizzy because it's the hardest one to really understand. And when we come down in here and we look at these pieces, and we see that right in here, it says like create and schedule announcements and respond to student posts, right? This is what you can do in your stream. It is very Facebook-like. So what I mean about that is the most recent post is going to be on the top. But that being said, if you've been in Facebook, especially lately, it can be very confusing because you're seeing a lot of things kind of feed in and you're not always seeing everything you want to. So if you don't keep it neat, it's hard to function in there. What can happen is if you're not careful, once we start to put classwork in, your classwork can feed into your stream. And that gets very confusing for students because it kind of all just piles in on top of each other, just piles and piles and piles and piles and pushes things down. And the stream gets very long. I like to call that a dirty stream. So I like to keep my stream as clean as possible. We're going to come back to that when we come into the settings. So what could I put on my stream? So the stream is a really great place to kind of meet and greet all your students. So meet and greet your students here, right? So think about this as like you're standing at the front door, you're standing at the door of your classroom and you're meeting your students here, right? So meet and greet your students. Okay, so okay, this is called meet and greet your student time. And hi, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful summer. Not a wandering summer, a wonderful summer. Let me tell you what, my typing will give you a lot to be desired. Had a wonderful summer, and I am so excited to work with you this year. I know it will be different, but we will learn together and learn lots together. Tell me a little bit about yourselves. Hello. This is allowing my students to come in to kind of have a conversation with me on this section. Now, that means I'm going to allow my students to post in this section right here. So I can use this area as a place where my students can post in comments and they can have a conversation. It's a really nice discussion board. I like to think of my stream as me meeting my students at the front door, having a conversation. I could put an announcement here. I could have some information here. Hey, don't forget we have gym tomorrow, right? So I might write, don't forget your sneakers because we have gym tomorrow. That's really good for my primary kids. For my older kids, it could be, hey, don't forget your permission slips. They have to come in. Don't forget to bring certain things. It's more of an announcement place. You'll notice that there are no due dates on anything I push out here. So that's very important. So this is an area for discussion, push out an announcement, and to just do some of those basic things. So that's a stream. Clean streams are the best. And we'll continue to kind of walk our way through that. The next one is the classwork tab. And the classwork tab is where, as a teacher, you are going to do buku of your work. This is where you're going to push assignments to your students. So anything that you would typically push to your students are going to go through here. Videos, Google Documents, links to websites, anything like that is going to push in through this area. And we want to keep it as neat. Again, this is about keeping it neat, because if we don't, it's overwhelming. Okay, so the next one down. So let's go to the people tab. We're going to come back to classwork tab. We're going to put lots of things in because we have lots of options in here. We're going to go through each one of those options. The people tab. So right now in the people tab, there's me, because I'm the only person here. It's just me, myself, and I, but I can add co-teachers into my space. So if I wanted to add a co-teacher, and what does a co-teacher mean? A co-teacher would be like a special educator. It could be a related service provider. It could be an actual co-teacher in your space. It could be your principal. It could be any of those things. So I'm going to invite a teacher, and I'm going to type in Erica Preston, and I am going to invite Erica Preston into my space. Okay, so that is going, she is going to get an alert that is going to invite her into here. You can see that I've invited her. She has to accept that to have access to this. You can have 20 teachers in your space. Some people love it. Some people hate it. It'll be how your district wants to handle that, whether they want special educators pushed in or whether they want like a co-teaching situation to exist. Now, that being said, in some of my co-teaching environments, I'm going to click over on my hamburger. You'll notice that I have one in here. Oh, it's in a different count. I'm sorry. I have one that is called Bond/Preston. We co-teach a class together. And I put both names on there, so we were very clear about which class belongs to which. So that's just to keep it neat. Your students, to invite your students, there's lots of ways. We're going to come back to that, but this is where your students will sit as well. And your guardians will actually sit in here. So once we get into one and I pop you into a class that's already populated, you will see what guardians look like. So any person that comes into your classroom or has access to your classroom, you will be able to see within the people section: teachers, co-teachers, students, guardians. All of that information is going to come there. The next one is your grades tab. So the grades tab is the one that I typically do during advanced Google Classroom, because we have to get stuff in there. We have to have it built before we can work on grades. So because I don't have any people, like I don't have any students, you can see I don't have any students, so I don't have any grades, because I also don't have any assignments. So that's pretty simple. So let's go back to people and let's talk about the ways that I can invite a student to my classroom. So there are 3 ways to do this. 3 ways that I think are the easiest. Some are easier than others. Some I believe work better than others, but quite honestly, this is my own personal preference. So I've gone back to my stream because I can do it this way. I can have my students in class the first time, as in, hey, you're here with me. I could pop up and I could say to students. So if I pulled my little Screencastify over, and let's just pretend this was a meet, and I pushed the chat box, which I don't have in Screencastify. I pushed the chat box. I could say, I want everyone to go to this link. I want everybody to go to classroom.google.com, and they would just click on it in the chat. Once they click on it, it would open up the classroom.google.com, right? And then students would come here. So I'm going to go classroom.google.com, and we've been here. They're going to do the same thing you did. They're going to click on the plus sign, and they're going to click join a classroom. So for them, they would join a classroom, and you'll see right in here, they get to ask the teacher for a class code, and then you can enter it here. So how do I get a class code? So here it is. I can click it right there. I can display it. You see that I can display it. I also can copy that invitation link so that there are options that I can do certain things with it. So that's one of the things that I can also do. So I could have my students type this in. As soon as they type that in, they are now in the classroom. So that's number one. I think that's one of the easier ways to do it. We can display it, and you'll see that if this is not large enough, you can display it full screen. So if you are using it remotely with your students, so some of your students are remote and some of them are with you, then you can do this and you can have them all come in. I highly recommend doing that because I think it makes a lot of sense to get my students in. So that's one way when I click that way. I can also copy the invite link. So once I copy it, I have the ability to paste that somewhere. Because I don't really have any place to paste that right now, I'm going to show you what it looks like when I paste it right into my session notes, my screen, my session notes. I'm going to put this in here, and I'm actually just going to add a text box just like this, right? And I'm just going to paste it. See what it looks like? It's just a Google link right now, right? So when I do that, I can paste that into the chat as well. So students don't actually even have to type in the copy invite. They don't have to type in the code. And this is a different code because this is a different classroom because I created a new one for you. So when you copy the invite link in, students just literally need to click it and I will add them right into the classroom. So that's two ways. Quite honestly, my favorite way to do is I just literally hand jam them in because that way when they come in, they can come in and I just invite them. They are in. They just come to classroom. Once they get there, then I give them the link. So these other ways that you have just seen, this way with the copy invite link, this is new. New as in the end of August. So this is making it much easier for people to get in. I highly recommend that you do this through a Google Meet, that you copy that invite link, you push it out to a Google Meet to your students, they click on the link, it will automatically add them. It'll open a new tab and they'll be added right into the classroom so they understand that they're in. Do not leave it to chance. Do not tell them, well, I want you to go in, I want you to go to your email, because they will tell you that they can't. Those little duffers are very resourceful, but we don't want them to get away from doing the work. So those are those two options of ways to go through, actually three, if you want to do it the other way and hand jam them in. Hand jamming them in takes a little bit more time, but you'll know when people come in. So as you're working, you'll see it has all of these pieces, right? You can also just email students this way. So you have lots of options. Pick the way that works best for you. If your district has integrated with School Tool or maybe eSchool or PowerSchool or Infinite Campus, then those options may already be done. They may have already integrated your kids in and your class is all set to go and you don't even have to worry about it. And if you are, buku to you and woohoo. So that makes life easier. Okay, let's move on to adding pieces into your Google Classroom. So the first thing is we created an announcement right off the bat, right? We're going to keep our stream nice and neat. So announcements are stagnant. So if you're going to add something, so let's say I'm going to add a document into this. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to please read through this document at the beginning of today's class. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to add something. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to go into my Google Drive, and it really doesn't matter what I add. Excuse me. I'm going to add this document right here. I'm going to add it. It's going to say, please read through this document at the beginning of this classroom. Find your name and know which group you are in. All right, so there we go. So you'll see this is just a Jamboard doc. If you've ever used Classroom before, you'll notice that I don't have any options. I cannot send this to people. I cannot make a copy. I can't make people edit it. Everybody's viewing the same document. I always like to use my Post-its when I do this because this makes sense and it'll make more sense in a few minutes. So here's my Post-its. So this is the document. Everyone is reading the same document. Okay, I know it's a Post-it. So if we were all reading this, it would be tough, but this makes sense to people. So you are all reading the exact same document at the same time, okay? It is a read-only document. It is not a make changes to it, nothing. That is not an option. It is a stagnant document, okay? You can also add in a video here. So I could totally add in a video, right? You see that I have that option. I can add a link, I can add a YouTube, I can add a file. Difference between Google Drive and a file. I get this a lot. A Google Drive is what you actually have in your drive, whereas a file is something that's attached to your desktop. So I can pull any kind of file up off it. It does not have to be in your Google Drive to have access to it. And then YouTube. So I can do any of those things. Anything in the stream does not require students to return something to you. It's not an assignment, okay? Google Stream components, Google Classroom Stream components are just one way. They are a push to the student. And that's why I think it's very important that we keep our stream and our classwork separate, and that'll come up in a few minutes. So it's great for videos, reminders, the first time posting of directions, links to meetings, anything like that. I think those things are all great ways to do it. So I'm all done, and you notice that I can come down through and I can like post it, I can schedule it, or I can save it. I'm going to post it, so that's really good, and we're just going to push it out. So you'll notice it pushed my other announcement down. So that's just always good to remember. Remember, the more you put in there, the more it's going to push things down. You may decide that, hey, I just found a spelling error, and knowing me, I might always do that. I can always come into the 3 dots, I can edit it, right? And I can actually put a date on it, because that could be extremely valuable to your students as you're starting to put a lot of things in here, especially at the beginning of the year. So I'm going to put that in, I'm going to save it. So it's set to go to all students. Fantastic. Let's go to classwork. Here's where we do the bulk of our work. So classwork. When we're in classwork, you will see that this is where we're going to push out assignments. We're going to create questions. We can put in quizzes. We can do materials. We can do posts. Any of those things are going to be options. So the first thing, let's work on we're going to work our way down the list. So the first one, we're going to create an assignment. Okay, so just like I talked about before with your Google Classroom, let's using naming convention. Let's not call it Monday or today, Tuesday, or when you're taking this, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever. Let's not call it by the day of the week, because if we call it Monday, we have like 38 Mondays in a school year. That can be confusing. So really the best thing to do is to date things. September 1, that's what today's date is. So when you're taking this, it'll be a little different. The date is important because it's going to allow our students to go back into an assignment and find it. So I'm going to do something else. I didn't just do that. I'm going to do September 1.A. So this is the 1st of September. It's probably the first assignment I'm going to push out today. I may be doing multiples. Now, a lot of people have asked me in the past, well, why don't I just put them all into one assignment? I totally could do that, but it's usually easier to kind of chunk up my assignments for kids, because then it's easier for them to divide them out. And if I have multiple things that have to be turned in, I really want to have those in separate assignments. Otherwise, it's not going to go well. So let's go through and let's just start it with an assignment. I'm going to say to them, please fill in, and I'm going to, please fill in your slide on the Google slide presentation. Let's just, those are directions. I'm going to back up. Google slide intro. That's the name of it, okay? And here's my directions. Now, instructions are never optional. I don't know if I could say that a million times enough. Instructions are never optional, and you are going to write your instructions and probably rewrite them and probably rewrite them again, because students are going to get stuck in them. So one thing, best practice is really number your directions. Number those instructions, because you're going to see where the breakdown comes in the instructions. Quite honestly, the first couple times you write them, you're not going to get them right. Don't kill yourself over it. Just edit them, because it'll happen, okay? Double click, or let's say open the slide presentation below. I cannot type. I'm going to do a hard return, so I have space. It's going to be easier for students to find where they are. I'm going to say, find the slide with your name on it. Fill in the sections with your own information. You will need to double click in slash on the shapes to edit them, to edit. 4, add a school appropriate picture. Nice spelling, a picture, okay? School appropriate picture. Add that in there. Be sure to use your digital citizenship skills. Okay, you're not going to be able to tell them that enough. Okay, so Google slide intro. So what does that even look like? Well, I could have already created it, and if I did, I would add it, but I haven't done that. So I'm going to create one on the fly. And this is kind of the benefit of creating in Google Classroom. So I'm going to come into Google Classroom, and I'm going to just call it Google Slide Intro, because that's what I called the document, right? So we're going to call it Google Slide Intro. Perfect. Google Slide Intro. So simple, right? I'm going to give it another side. I'm going to just make the layout pretty simple, nothing in it, and then I'm going to put a couple shapes here. So I'm going to use some shapes. I'm going to have the kids do some shapes. I'm going to have them, put some text in them, just a little bit, just a little bit about themselves. I want a little intro here, right? And I'm going to do a little call out, right? And they can kind of edit this as they want to. I'm going to put up here, feel free, right? Feel free to add in images, videos, appropriate, think, ditch, sit. And then, and change, and okay, customize for you. Customize to your taste. Does that make sense? So we come in here. So this first thing would be name. You prefer name. Okay, let's do name. And then let's do this one. Name you prefer to be called. They could be very different, right? Called. That's great. Okay. Family. And let's say, tell me something about your family. Okay, it doesn't have to be anything. And that's not like, they could say dogs, cats, favorite pastime. I'm just going to, great, favorite pastime. You see what I did? I only put a couple things in here. They can change these boxes. They can make them as big or as small as they want. So I'm not giving them all those directions. And the reason for is because I want to see what their skill level is. Now on this slide, I want to put a title back on it. I took it off a little too quickly because what I'm going to do in the title is I'm going to put their names, right? I'm going to put names in. So I could recreate this slide every time I wanted. Oh, there's no way. So what I really want to do is I just want to duplicate a pile of them. Duplicate. I'm going to just put, let's say I only have 5 kids in this class. Now, wouldn't that be nice, right? So this is going to be Bobby's slide. This is going to be Susie's slide. And let's put Timmy down here. I'm going to put Amelia in here, actually. Amelia. That's my granddaughter. And then I'm going to put Becca. Let's put Becca in there. So that's my daughter. Okay, so I have it all set, right? It's all built and ready to go. So I have a Google slide presentation. This is going to change. So now the trick is, how am I going to push that out? So do I want them to view it? No, because I want them to edit it. So I have to give them editing ability. So we're going to come back to this in a few minutes because this is super important that we understand when we're pushing out this assignments, what I'm doing. So I'm actually doing the creation mode instead of adding because that's just a benefit of having it on the fly. Now, if I'd had one built, I could add from Google Drive. Sometimes people will have them built. I used to tell teachers you had to come prepared with what you're going to pass out, right? So let's just attach this presentation right here. Actually, we'll attach this one instead. I have 2 that I'm going to put in. So say I clicked 2 and they both came in. How cool is that? If you want to see an example of someone else's. So when I can change the level, they can view it, they can edit it, right? They can just view some different ideas of what they could do. So that's super important. I want them to edit this document. This is a collaborative document. It means they're all going to edit one file. They're all going to write to this document together. Let's talk through these pieces. So here we go. So students can view it, right? If I said this one, so the view one was my first one, right? And I put this up here and I said, okay, this one was view. They're all going to read the same post-it, all reading the same post-it. Students can edit the file. They can all edit the post-it, the same post-it. They can all write to the same post-it, okay? That could be chaos, just so you know. Just think through that. You have to get your kids to this spot. Students, so the last one that's on there, the last option in there is make a copy for each student. Make a copy for each student. I give you all your own post-it to write on, and then you're going to be able to submit back to me. So that's the difference between those three. It's important that we understand those. If I want them to collaborate and I want them to collaborate in small groups, I could do the same assignment, push the same document out to them at multiple sessions, and then I'd still be the owner and I could get just a few back instead of one copy for each. I could have every student, I could make a copy of this for every student, but then I get 20 back instead of like one. So I want you to think through that. When can I use collaboration? When collaboration is important, not based on individual grades, which is where we should really be headed with remote learning. When can I do that instead of pushing a copy for each student? So we have to think through that process. Then when we come over here, I can push it out to all the students in my classroom. If I had a list of them, I could just pick a few. I don't have any right now, okay? So due dates. Think about due dates. When are things going to be due? If this was something that was due during the first week of school, I'm going to push it out. Be flexible with due dates, because we know that students are sharing devices. And do not defer to 11:59. Keep it to a student-friendly time, which is typically like, how about we say 9 p.m. Some student will choose to do it at the end. They won't do it at the beginning. When I put a date on it, it will go to their calendar. It's going to push to their Google Calendar, and that will be helpful. The last thing, topics. Make sure you are using topics. So you don't get topics, you have to make them. So think through the big things, and you can just make it a daily assignment. There's nothing wrong with keeping it simple, right? One topic per component. It will not allow you to double tag them. That would be awesome, but that's not an option. And we're not going to discuss the rubric in this session. So then I can assign it out. So when we push these out, I can assign it. I can schedule it. So I can assign it, which means it's automatic. I can schedule it. That means just like it sounds, like you schedule an appointment. I can schedule this to open up tomorrow at 8 a.m. So when I push it out and schedule it for 8 a.m. push, it will show up tomorrow at 8 a.m. It's not, I don't have to do those. So I could do tomorrow's, I could do the day after that, I could do them all. I could schedule them all out for a specific time and they'll roll at that time. For teachers that are pre-planned, this is a great way to do it. I can also save a draft. So I work on it. I don't think I'm really done with it. I want to come back to it. So let's say I just save that as a draft. It's going to save. It's going to come in here. It grays itself out when it's saved as a draft. And the same thing. So if I come out here and all I have to do is I have to edit it. All I have to do is come in and edit it. And I'm like, yeah, I think it's good to go. And I just push assign. So it say they will see it immediately in their streams immediately. Yeah, that's good. I want them to see it immediately. So it does ask you that pop-up now before you assign things out. Since I have no students in the classroom, it's not a big deal. So it sits right here. You can see it has this assignment icon. It's attached to the daily assignment. Okay, next one. Let's look at the Google Calendar really quickly. So the Google Calendar will pop in here and you will see when I load that, this one right here, it's going to come into this and it's going to be due at 8 p.m. And there it sits right there at my 8 p.m. session. It's a blue technology remote learning and it sits right there and there's the assignment. When I click on it like that, students can come in, they will be able to see there's directions and there's the components that they need. So that's just nice to know that that's in there. Okay, so assignments, remember you can assign them, you can schedule them, you can save a draft, all of those pieces. All right, let's do the next one, the quiz assignment. I'm not going to go all the way into this one. So let's push quiz assignment. Let's push out a quiz assignment, and I want you to see what magically happens. When you push out an assignment, a quiz assignment, it automatically assumes you want to use a Google form. So you can, it just says, hey, you want to use a Google form? Okay. So I'm going to do September. Yeah, I'm going to type a little better than that. September 1B, second assignment of the day. Take the following Google form, fill out the appropriate information. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. When I come in, it's like, okay, so what it does when you create it within Google Classroom as a quiz, it's automatically going to come in and it's going to ask you, it sets it all up so that the answers, so you have to go in and add your answer keys. You don't have to come up into the settings to do that. It's a shortcut. If you've already got them all set, you can still go in here and add one. You can still do it the way we've done it in the past. They've made this a little neater so that you can come through, you can add your quiz and do all those pieces. The trick to this is if I'm just going to call it blank quiz, I'm going to call it September 1B quiz. Okay, I'm really not going to do all the pieces. The September 1 blank quiz will load. These names will load. They just take time, and I don't know why they take so long, but they do change as you go through. As the students take this quiz, if you do it within Google Classroom, if you create a quiz within Google Classroom, it will grade it if you choose automatic grading. I'll say that one more time. If you build a form within Google Classroom that self-grades, it will automatically grade it. If you pull one in from your Google Drive, it's not going to do that. So that's a piece that people have been looking for. So I'm going to push this out, okay? Going to push this out, and now I'm going to have two pieces in there, and you'll see here's the A, here's the B. Oh, I did this one, and I didn't do anything to it, right? Oh, bad human. I need to change that. So I need to come into this. I put the date on it, but I didn't do anything else, right? I'm going to just say this is the quiz. And I need to give it a topic. I always want to create a topic. So I'm going to create a topic, and I'm just going to call it quiz. And I need to put a due date on it, right? It's got to be due on the same day, because once they do one, it's got to be due the same time. Okay, perfect. So now it's got a title, it's got a date, it's got the pieces it needs, and now I have a quiz section. Hopefully that makes sense. Next one through. Question, just like it sounds. Okay? September 1C. Easy. Here's the question. I could literally write the question here. What was the most difficult part of working collaboratively? There's my question. Okay, come down over here. When's it going to be due? So I gave them till the 4th, so I'm going to make this due the 7th. Simple. I'm assigning it on the 1st. It's due on the 7th. I'm not putting a time on it. I'm not even going to follow up with this. I'm going to put this under daily assignment because it's kind of pushing through. They can reply to each other. Ask. I can turn that off. I can make it so they can only answer, so they cannot reply to each other. I'm going to ask the question. So when they populate in, they're going to have a question that's going to pop up. So when they come in and they look at their piece, that will be in their upcoming, it'll be one of their pieces. Let's do the next one. So we're kind of booking along because these, once you do one, they're all very, very simple. Create materials. Okay, materials are not an option. Make sure that you have classroom materials built for your students. So I'm going to call this Bond content materials, and I'm going to go grab one that I have already built. Now this might be a document that I've built for parents. The reason I like this is because it's a resource document that I'm going to use over and over and over and over again. And I'm going to use the same one all year. I'm going to continue to use it. So I'm going to add one. It's in my Google Drive, and I'm just going to tell it content. So once it looks like content, not content, bad word, it's going to look for the word content. And I think I have one in here. Maybe I don't. It might just be called resource doc. It might be. Let's say bond and call it resource. Okay, I don't know if it's exactly in there. There it is right there, okay? So it's not exactly, but this is, so I have a document that's built for my students that they can use, and I'm gonna add that right there. I'm gonna insert it. So I have this resource document. You notice I don't have to make a copy for each student. This just kind of sits here. So let's look and see what this looks like if I want to open it up. What are things that I would put into a resource document? I would have my contact hours, so this might not have it in here. So these are just some tools that I've put in here. These are pieces that I can have in here. I like tools. It's got a little knife. That's a little, my ninja sword. But if I was going to use one with my students, I would want something along the lines of, sorry, I'm going to find it because I don't know what it looks like right now. I'm going to look for all my documents. Oh, it's right there. And it's called contact hours. If I was just searching for the right thing, I would find it. Okay, so let's add contact hours because I'm going to search my Google Drive. And I'm going to look for contact hours. I did a little bit of, no, it's not already attached. I'm going to do contact. My finger keeps slipping and I'm very sorry. I know why. I can only have one document attached at a time. That was my bad. So let's add one in here. Contact hours. And I want to show you what it looks like. So you can use this for lots of different ways. You can have information in that there that is related to resources. So what I like about this one is that I have a little bit of information. This would be good for parents. This might be a document I share with them. Okay, no, I'm going to just use that. Thank you. And you can see I have a schedule in here. This is more for primary students, but I might have like how I'm going to meet, what my online classroom is going to use, what it's going to look like. I also put these headers in that allows my students to jump through the document. I would use this document the entire year. I would not rework this document once it's all done. So this is going to be contact. I looked up content. So, you know, I was close. Contact hours. Please refer to this document how to contact me. So a link to my calendar would be in there. This would go to all students, and I'm going to call this materials. It's going to be important that you keep one of these going. You may have one of these, you might have resources, you might have a link page. So you make one link page and you use it all year. So I'm in here and like my contact hours happen. I don't know, I get moved. So I come in here and I double click this or I open this document. I can make changes to this document itself. And once I do that, once I make changes to it, I can go through and say, oh, well, you know what? We just changed to an 8 o'clock day and I noticed that my kids need more time in here. So I'm going to do 8 to like 8:30, right? So I can change this. And the minute I make the change within this document, it's going to change in here. I don't have to do things 3 or 4 times and reattach it. When I attach it in through Google Classroom, it's going to stay there and I can update right within Google Classroom. So that's one of the benefits, like a collaborative document. They're just reading it and they only have readability. They're not writing to that. So anything in there will make sense. Okay, reusing a post. Huge benefit to reuse a post. I can take a post that I put into another classroom and I can reuse it, just like it says, right? And it sounds so simple, but it's just so easy. So if I'm doing differentiated instruction for my students, I have the ability to make these lessons and I can make multiples of them. And all of a sudden I broke the Googles. So hold on, it will go. I'm going to show you what it looks like. It is down on a slide. It's on slide 29. So I'm going to show you what it looks like because I did break the Googles. It looks like this. I'm going to go into present mode. Once I click reuse, it pulls up all the assignments I have done in other classes and I can click on one really, really simply. I can click on one and then I can either create new copies of all attachments, which could be super simple, and I can reuse it. So the benefit of that is that I don't have to rewrite directions all the time. So let's try that one more time and see if it'll let me go in and reuse a post. There it is. Just had a little wonk. So let's say I really like this one right here. And this is a special links document and I say, yes, I'm going to click that and I'm going to reuse. This one doesn't have an attachment. And when I push it out, all my directions would come in here if I had directions, all of those pieces would come in. I could put a date, I could put a time, it comes in. Very simple way to do that without having to recreate the wheel every time. That's a big benefit. And I just push it out, and I could put a topic on it. So what if I make one and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot a topic. I just come in, I edit it, and I put a topic on it, right? This is a material. I'm just going to save it as a material, and then it's all set to go. All right, so now, next one. Whoo, hot. We've done all of those. We are all done with classwork. Isn't it amazing? Okay, so let's go look at our stream. Woo! Oh, no. I have a messy stream. Here's what I put on stream, but here's my assignments. I don't want that. Ew, there's junk in my stream. I'm hoping you're getting my sarcasm here. I want to clean it up. So what I need to do that, what I need to do that is I have to go into my class settings. Here are my class settings. I come right into them. I'm skipping class details. You notice all of that? That's like your classroom stuff that you put in originally when you first came in. I'm coming down into the general information. And in the general information, I am looking for classwork on the stream. And you notice it says show condensed notifications. Nope. I went to hide notifications. Okay. Once I do that, look at, I have a save button. I'm going to click that save button. I'm going to go out to the stream and I have, oh, beautiful, clean stream. There's nothing in here except announcements. My announcements are in my stream. My classwork is in my classwork. Let me do that one more time. I came up into my settings, and what I'm making sure is that my classwork on the stream is hiding. It's not getting rid of my classwork. It's just taking it off the stream and only letting it be seen in classwork. Much cleaner, much neater, and easier to deal with, okay? Much easier to deal with. So the other thing I also want you to notice is that as I did that, one of the pieces that's there, you'll notice in your settings, you also have the ability for meet codes in here, right? You can see as soon as you have students in here, I can reset my codes for my classroom pretty easily if I just want to disable them. So I have all my kids in, I don't need them there. I can disable them. And when I come back out here, it's not going to show up there. Basically, so no one else can be added into my classroom. That's really beneficial so your students don't add other people in. The other thing that sits in here that I think is very popular is your Google Meet information is also in here. So your Meet information will come right there. And I'm going to show you what that looks like on a different slide. I'm going to show it to you on a slide. Mine is a little different because I do not have mine set up to use a Meet on mine. So you will see the Meet is down in here. See that? So my meeting codes are here. My Meet information is down here, right? So there's my, sorry, my stuff is in the way. You'll see that my meeting codes, I'm a little over my time, that's 50 minutes. My meeting codes are down here, so that's where you can push it out. And you can make it visible out to your students. So when I make it visible to my students, it's going to populate out here on my Google Meet. I don't have that turned on for this. It's going to come right here so they can see it. Just know that that is always an option. I will include another video so that you can see that. Okay, very, very simple to do that. Your general settings. So we've basically worked our way through there. Now, last one, and I'm only over by a couple minutes, is your people tab. So I told you I would show you how to invite guardians. So you have to have students invited. So I've got to invite, oh, I did. I invited one. And then what I need to do is I can invite guardians. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to go to a class that has all of these pieces in place. And I'm going to go into this class right here. So this is a full class, and I'm going to go to my people tab where I have people. I lied to you. I'm going to go to another class. I think this one has more people. We'll know in about 30 seconds. Yeah. So this one has people in it. I have students in this class, right? I have 5 students in this classroom. So what I want to do is I want to invite a guardian. Okay. So some school districts have this totally aligned with your student information system, your SIS. Okay. School Tool, eSchool, Power School, Infinite Campus. it automatically feeds in. Not all school districts do. So I'm going to click a box here. I'm going to come to actions, and I am going to add a guardian, right? So why don't I have it? Well, why doesn't Virginia have it? I'm going to teach you the little trick. I don't have it because I'm using a private account. So I'm going to go in and show you in here. You ready? Let's go find my big classroom of people right there, okay? I'm going to come in, people. Going to add a guardian. Click on it. Going to click in, and it says email all guardians. Guardianships must be turned on. I think I had it before and I just wasn't thinking. It is the 3 dots. Invite guardians. Now my brain went on a little vacation. Nope, I don't have it turned on in my personal account because it's not an option, right? So in a domain, so any school districts using Google Classrooms using a domain. So right here, I can 3 dot it, invite guardian. So I can invite someone in. So kvb12201@gmail.com is a person. So I can have, and you'll notice it in just a second, can have 2 guardians, okay? You can also remove a guardian. Why is that important? Well, you know, in today's society, you can remove a guardian. I don't know how many guardians you can have on a link. Let's see. I think you can have 3. Here, let's add another one. Okay, you can have another one. You can have lots of guardians, okay? If the class before you, if you teach 3rd period and somebody else has invited guardians, your students' guardian list will already show up. Few things about guardians. They must be turned on at the Google domain level. You do not have the ability to turn that on. So it must be turned on to invite guardians. So you'll see that I am showing you a little bit in here. Right? From the same screen, click the cog in the upper right. Go to guardians, make sure guardian summaries are turned on. Then you can set this up and the parent accepts. So let's look at what that looks like. Guardian tab, we go up to our settings. And you have to have guardian turned on. So it's a little tab right in here. I'm in a personal account. Jeez, I keep going to the wrong one. In here, come down to the tab, guardian summaries. It may look like this. This must be turned on at the domain level. If it's not an option. And it's one and done. So once I turn this on, it's going to ask me a question. Do you want to add class to guardian email summaries? Do you want to add all your classes? I'm going to click that again. And I'm going to say, yep, I sure do. So you can click in here and get guardian summaries. I'm going to cover those in the advanced class, just so you know, if you take that. So guardian summaries are super important. There's 2 kinds. There's weekly and daily. I will cover them later because they're a little bit more detailed. Okay, we only have a little bit more and then we are set to go. The next thing through, the student view. 2 things I have included in your information. A link for you to show student view. And there's a video in here. This is excellent. Use it with your students because they don't understand and it may be difficult for you to understand. The one thing that I think is the most important link that you can give your students is using the upcoming within your stream. Okay, so when they come in and they click in here, they're going to get a view that says, so this is my teacher view. This is so valuable for teachers to use because it shows where you are, what's turned in, what's signed and graded. For your students, it says what's assigned, what's turned in, and what's late. Okay, when you learn to do that and to use that view, they will be much more efficient. So that process, let me show you where that is again. It's on the stream and it's the little upcoming box. Remember to train your students no matter what you're doing. If you want it, you got to teach it and you're going to have to teach them that. So you're going to teach them to come in. They're going to click here and you're going to say, okay, how many of you have assignments to turn in? Just raise your hand. That's it. Okay. How many of you are all done? Awesome. Good job. Just check base with them. Right? We're not passing judgment. We just want to know where you are. So I also told you that the Meet link would show here. So you will see that when I come down to Meet, I do not have my Meet link visible to my students. When I click that and I save it, it comes back out to my stream. And you can see the students would be able to come in here, click right on that to get into my link. Do not publish your Meet links out, otherwise you will have interlopers come in. Have your students go to Google Classroom, get into your Meet that way. If you're using Zoom, you're gonna have to do it a different way. So what I've also included into your section there, because I'm going to kind of quit at this point, I have included some new ways to use Google Classroom, some Alice Keeler information. This is a video for submitting assignments. You will need that for your students, promise me. There's some tips and tricks in here, not going to go through all of them. And what you are going to need to do is on the Google slide deck, you are going to have to go into the Google form, which is right here. You will click on it once, come to the bottom, click on it. It will bring you to a Google form. You will go into that. You will fill out all of the pieces, and that is how you will get credit. I am asking you for 5 takeaways from today's session and what those tie-ins are to your instruction as far as your use of Google Classroom. So that link is embedded right into the slide deck. As always, feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I hope that this was very beneficial for you and that these will be some things that you can use. My contact information is here at the end, and good luck, and thank you so much for taking this class. I hope to see you again in another session. Bye.